Welcome to the Overweight Mind podcast. My name is Jay Nixon, and I'm the best-selling author of The Overweight Mind. This podcast is where the power of positive psychology, mindset, and personal development converge to transform lives. I hope you'll join us on this uplifting journey as we explore the secrets to creating a lifestyle that leads to happiness, health, and wealth. Discover how science of the mind can help you achieve your weight loss goals and unlock your full potential of life. It's where the magic of the mind meets the path to a healthier, wealthier you. Welcome to the show. Before we dive into the show, I want to take a quick moment to talk about the sponsor of this episode. It is very dear and near and close to my heart because it is Lori's company, SpaStar. If you ever had the opportunity to watch someone create something from a thought or a vision and make this magical thing actually come to life, well, then you'll know why I'm so extremely proud of her and why I'm so excited to have her sponsoring the Thrive Forever Fit show. If you've listened to my podcast, then you probably heard her on episode 259. If you haven't heard that, I would go listen to episode 259 as soon as you finish this episode. She talks about the story of how she created it, the adversity she overcame, the challenges that she worked through, and just the inspirational story that I know you're absolutely going to love. But what SpaStar is a luxury wrap, and it was created as a spa wrap for people who were getting beauty treatments. But what we found out is it is a piece for everyday life. People are wearing it as swimsuit cover-ups, resort wear, just to get ready in the mornings or for that special event. It is the most unique piece, and I've actually worn this thing several times. I was the actual first model for this. Maybe I'll show you guys some photos of that, Fred, when the time is right. But it is such a cool creation called the Get Ready Wrap by SpaStar. And because you're a listener, you get 15% off today because you support me. So just go to spastar.net, spastar.net, the word spa, the word star.net. And at the checkout, enter Thrive15, THRIVE 15, and you're going to get 15% off of your Get Ready wrap. So many of my clients already have these and absolutely love them. We're selling them all over the country and all over the world, for that matter, to high-end luxury spas and to people just like you that are using them inside of their own homes. They're traveling with them. They're using them at the pool. It's so really just unbelievably cool to see and witness. And I'm so blessed to be a part of it. And I'm so blessed to have Lori actually sponsoring my podcast, which I think is really, really cool. So go check out SpaStar. I know you're going to love it. It is the coolest thing ever. And guys, this isn't just for ladies. This is one of the coolest gifts you could get any female in your life, for that matter. If Lori hadn't have created it, I would buy them for her as a gift to show her my love and appreciation. So dudes, if you're listening and you need to get a gift for your significant other or some special person in your life, go to spastar.net, grab a Get Ready wrap. There's all kinds of colors. There's black, there's sage, there's a berry color, there's a gosh, I just went blank. There's a kind of a greeny, kind of avocado-y color. Really cool. You're definitely going to love these, I promise. So go to spastar.net, check it out, support Lori. And Lori, thank you for sponsoring the show. All right. Okay, this one hit me like an absolute ton of bricks today while I was working out. To a certain degree that when I finished my workout, the first thing I did is I sent my man, Thomas Baker, a voice note, and I said, dude, what do you think about this? Like, what's your perspective on this? Give me some thoughts. I've got to banter about this. I've got to get this out of my brain. It was like a ping pong match going on in my head while I was working out. And it's all about the concept of your why, your capital WHY. And I even put a post up about this the other day, and I think that's what got me thinking in terms of this. And I talked about most people lose their way when they lose their why. And then today it hit me, and I'm like, maybe that's not even right, dude. Like, maybe it's more to it than that. Like, maybe that's not even it. Maybe the whole problem is the concept of the why in the first place. Now, before we go crazy here, let's unpack this a little bit. So I believe that the concept of start with why came out a few years ago Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. And the whole premise of the book, I read the book. I like the book. I like all of Simon's stuff. He's a great writer. He articulates things in a really easily understandable fashion. I like the book. It made sense to me then, but maybe it's not relevant anymore for me and or for anybody. Because I started thinking today, let me just unpack this a little bit. This is where I got to. I started thinking about my why. And I was a little bit, and yeah, I was shocked. I was a little bit shocked. And I went first, like the way I process through things is I think life is like pillars and buckets and things of that nature. So when I look at things, I like to break them down into categories. Like I run my life kind of like I would run a business. And so my health and fitness is like one department of my business. And so I usually start there because that's the world I live in. I mean, it's what I do for a living, owning a gym, having a weight loss transformation program, writing books, having a supplement company. I mean, my entire life is revolved around the world of health and fitness and wellness. So I always start there for myself. And I started thinking about today of like, okay, you work out 7 days a week. I mean, 6 days a week, you might take a day off here and there. So, I mean, I move every day. I'll put it that way. Like I'm doing something physical every day. I eat super clean. I have a very, I would call it structured nutritional intake based on how I want to feel and how I want to look. The same thing for my workouts. It's like I'm not doing that strictly for a vanity aspect, but there's a portion of that. Like I really unpacked this today, and I said, do I even have a why for why I work out? And it came back to the simplistic nature of I refuse to look like a bag of nickels. And what I mean by that is I refuse to let myself not be in shape. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to have a dad bod. I don't want love handles. I don't want a belly. I don't want to be flabby. And I'm not, this is about me. This is a 100% like Jay Nixon thing. Like I'm not judging anybody else for what they do, what they want to look like, what they care about, how they treat their body. Like this was like a deep, like a therapy session with myself. And I was like, I don't want that. Like that's my why. Like I don't want that. So I'm like, is it strictly like a vanity metric? And I said, maybe partially, for sure, a little bit, right? Like I don't want to look. I have a responsibility, and I've always believed this, right? I've kind of lived my life, based on like a business. And I think about like if businesses do the right thing, the good things, great customer service, do what they say they're going to do, then they stay in business forever. I was talking to Bobby today, and we were talking about businesses that he's been going to since he was a little kid. He's in his 70s. They've been around for over 100 years. And I started thinking those businesses do what they say they're going to do. They do the right thing. And so when I think about my health and fitness and my body, I think I have an obligation. I have an obligation to myself first and foremost. It's like, how do you want to live this gorgeous, glorious life that we get to experience? How do you want to navigate through that? Do you want to have diseases? Do you want to be on medications? Do you want to have ailments that prevent you from doing A, B, C, and D? How do you want to look? How do you want to feel? All those things, like all those are important to me. And then I have an obligation because I came into a union with another human being, Lori. And when I came into that union, I presented myself with a certain set of standards on how I look. And it would be very unfair to her for me to just say, oh, well, I'm getting older, so I'm going to let myself go. And it's okay for me to not present and represent myself in a healthy fashion for you, even though you bought a Lamborghini, and now I'm going to give you blank, insert whatever you think is less than Lamborghini, right? Because somebody's going to get pissed if I say the name of a car, but neither here nor there. You get what I'm saying. Wouldn't be fair to her. And take it to a health and fitness perspective. I want to live the rest of my life with Lori at a high functioning fashion. I don't want her to have to take me to the doctor. I don't want her to have to worry about me every night that I'm overweight and out of shape and have high cholesterol and have a heart problem and I'm on 75 different medications. That is completely unfair to her. That is ridiculously unfair to her. She didn't sign up for that. I hear people all the time saying, oh, well, I've got to take my husband to go get his, heart ablation. Like it's normal. Like a heart ablation is not normal. Like these are self-induced things. And so my why for me for that is maybe just that simple. It gets a standard for how I've chosen to live. I think the same thing about my work. Like I'm willing to get up at not willing. I'm excited to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning to start my day, to build a life and in a foundation financially for myself and for my significant other. It's my standard. It's my standard. It's what I'm committed to do. So I look at all those fashions of my life, how I show up for my friends, how I show up for my business, everything. It's like all standards. And I started trying to find out, well, what's my why? And then, when Tommy and I started rapping about this, he was like, yeah, I think it's a broken concept, because people have gotten they've either gotten so philosophical in their whys, like, I want to create a world of abundance and magnificence for all of the people of blah, blah, blah. And it's like, there's no real action behind it. There's no real like driving force that's going to create that for you to get you to start going. And then I started thinking about the fundamental nature of the whole concept, if your why is strong enough, you'll find a way. I don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true. Because here, let me give you a few examples, and this may piss a few of you guys off. And if it does, it's probably a reason you're pissed off about it, because it hits home and it's a little bit true. But I can't tell you the amount of people that tell me this very thing. My why is my family, Jay. My why is my family and my kids, my wife, my blah, blah, blah. I don't think, I'm going to be honest, I don't think that's true. You might believe that in a certain aspect of your brain, but it's not, you're not doing anything to prove that there's a truth to that. And let me give you an example. The number of people who've told me that, but then continue to abuse themselves, continue to be overweight, continue to grow in the wrong direction, continue to struggle financially, continue to not be a provider, both physically, mentally, and emotionally for their families. If that was your why, wouldn't you do anything? Wouldn't you do any? People would say, I'd do anything for my kids. That's not true. You wouldn't. You would not. You won't even get healthy for your kids. You know what I'm saying? And that might piss you off, but it's just true. It's just true. You won't even get healthy for your kids. So you can't. So that's what I'm saying. I think it's a broken philosophy, because it's just not strong enough. Your kids aren't strong enough for you to put the damn donut down. Your kids aren't strong enough for you to go to work and actually, or get a new job, or get a side hustle, or start a business. They're not, or you would. Does that make you mad? Does that upset you? If it does, it's only because it's true. Like, it's not strong enough. And so what I want to do is I want to help you understand, like, why you might be struggling with your why, because it's not strong enough. Like, there's no purpose behind it. Yes, you love your kids. I'm not questioning that at all. Yes, you love your family. Yes, you love your wife. I can't tell you how many people say, I just want to be able to play with my grandkids. You can't play with yourself. You can't walk to the mailbox. You won't walk to the mailbox. You won't walk around the block. You won't park at the furthest spot at the grocery store. If the spot up front's not open, you won't even go. You're not going to play with your grandkids. That's all BS, and that's what we got to stop. That's what we got to quit. That's what we got to quit. We've got to quit saying things that have no merit behind them. You got to quit saying things that aren't real. It's not real. Your why is not your kids. Your why is not your family. If it was, you would do everything you could to be the best version of yourself. Would you not? Would you not? And so maybe it is. Maybe it's got to be a little more personal than that. And here's my theory on that. Here's what, and after I unpacked all this today, and Thomas and I had a roundtable banter on it, I think it's allowed some, and Tommy brought this up. He said, I think it's allowed some escapism. because you can escape in your why. You can kind of stay stuck in your why. It's like, I'm really trying to figure, once I figure out my why, I'm really going to go after it. I don't think you will. I don't think you will. But here's a strategy. You ready? Here's a strategy for you. If you start living your life based on a set of like really high standards, and let me give you some perspective on this. Like, what's something in your life that you have really high expectations for? And if those expectations aren't met, you get it bothers you. You get upset. Is it if you go to a certain like if you go to this, like if there's a 5-star restaurant in your town and you know it's going to be expensive, but you're willing to pay that price because your expectation is you're going to go there and everything's going to be spot on, 5-star perfect. All right? That's like a standard. Like you've set that standard for that place, and that place has set that standard by saying we are the best of the best, the 5-star luxury restaurant in town. Correct? So that's an easy standard for you to understand that you've set for yourself. Maybe it's a customer service example, like when you go and you fly first class on an airplane. You expect things to be like, you expect a pre-flight glass of champagne. You expect the pillow. You expect the blanket. You expect the hot towel before you get your meal. You expect the warm nuts. They don't even do that anymore, but they used to. If you guys used to fly first class, it used to be an experience extravaganza. Kind of, we won't get into that. That's another pod. But you expect, those are your expectations. I bet some of you guys have expectations for other people, and when they don't meet them, you get really upset. So what you've done there is you set a set of standards for those expectations, and when they aren't met, you get upset. So reverse engineer that. If you set that same set of standards for yourself, and when those standards weren't met, you got upset, you would elevate your standards. You see, it's what you're unwilling to tolerate from yourself anymore that will get you where it is you want to go. I'm convinced that your why won't be strong enough. And I apologize. I'm sorry that it's just that way. But if you're really honest, like if we just pause right now and we're like, okay, 100% brutal, transparent honesty. If your why, air quotes, W, capital H, capital Y, if that thing that you say is your why was really powerful enough, would you be doing what you're doing right now? Would you be stuck behind that same 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 pounds that you've been trying to lose for the last year, 2 years, 3 years? Right? Would you be stuck in the same job, paycheck to paycheck? Would you be doing the same behaviors that were leading to bad relationships? Right? Would you still be sitting on the couch drinking cold beer, watching football instead of going for a walk if you really wanted to play with your kids? If you really wanted to be mobile enough and fit enough to I've had people say, I want to be able to get on the ground and roll around with my grandkids. I'm like, I'm afraid if you got on the ground right now, I might not be able to get you back up. So so my point to that is that can't be true. It can't be true. Because if it was, you'd have different actions. You would be doing different things to make sure that was going to happen. And so my strategy for you is this. F your why. Forget about it. Kick it out the door. Stop ruminating on what it should be, what it could be, and why it's not working for you. And just get yourself a set of standards on what you will tolerate from yourself. What you won't tolerate of yourself anymore. If you're someone who's struggling with a food problem, get some help or help yourself. How does that start? Well, you start by not tolerating the purchase of those foods that you know are creating the problem. Okay, that sounds simple to say, Jay. That's going to take some work. That's going to take some mindset alteration. You're going to have to create a belief system that you're worth and your quote unquote why is worth all of those things. but it's just got to be your standards. And you've got to treat that as if, I want you to figure out something right now, something in your life that you have an extremely high expectation for. Might be that restaurant, might be the flight, might be a place, might be a hotel, might be a vacation. And if those expectations weren't met, how would you feel? That's the same feeling, if not more exacerbated, that you need to feel about not meeting your own personal expectations, about not living up to the standards of who it is that you say you want to be. And it's much, much, much bigger than your why. Like that, I mean, I like I said, I think it was a great book. I think the concept is great, but I think it's gotten so whimsical and so flimsy in its nature that people are just throwing out a bunch of stuff and it's really not even relevant. Like they don't even believe the things that they're saying is their quote unquote why. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that people don't love their children. That people do love their children. I don't even know what I'm saying. I want to make sure I say that correctly. I believe fundamentally that people love their children. But saying that your children is the reason that you want to get healthy and fit, saying that your children is the reason you want to stop doing the things you're doing that are causing the problem isn't strong enough for you to just do it. Because I assume when you look over at that little person, you love them more than love can even be defined. Am I right? But love's not enough. Right? Love's not enough. The love for your spouse, your significant other, not enough. You're going to have to find a set of standards inside of you. And really, I'm being honest, when I unpacked it today, I didn't know the answer. Like I didn't start with where I ended. I thought I was going to come to some philosophical why about why I do what I do, about why I treat my body like I treat it, about how I feed myself, about how I sleep, about all of those things. I thought I was going to be some epiphanal why. And it wasn't. It just wasn't. It really boiled down to what I feel is my obligation as a human that has entered into a contract with himself to live his unbelievably best, most abundant life ever, and in a contract with another human being my significant other, Lori. And I feel both of those have extreme value to me, right? It's the value that I've put on those two things. Like I say this to myself all the time. I absolutely refuse. I refuse. Hear me when I say this. I refuse to not be healthy. I refuse to not be fit. You guys have probably heard me say this before. One of my goals every year is to be fitter on my next birthday than I am on the current one I just had. And that doesn't just happen. That doesn't happen because I have a why. Like I'm just wishing it to be true and hoping it's going to happen. Like it actually requires a set of standards that allow that to be the case, that allow that to be the outcome that happens. But it's just that there's no philosophical, speech that I can give you, like all that stuff. I think a lot of time gets wasted inside of that. And maybe you just need to get down to the brass tacks of, and listen, maybe it's not worth it to you. There's always that avenue as well. Free will is an amazing thing, but it's just that. It's free will. It's decision. You get to make the decision on what you want your life to look like. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're still listening, I'm assuming that you want to live an extravagantly amazing life. You want to be happy. You want to be healthy. You want to live in abundance. You want to have great family. You want to have great friends. You want to have great health. You want to have great everything. The only way you can have that is if your standards match that type of lifestyle. And treating yourself poorly is not that kind of standard. And it all starts with your mindset. It all starts with the overweight mind. It all starts with you creating new neural pathways and convincing yourself. If you guys listened to the podcast last week, that I believe in you. I believe everybody's capable of the achievement of everything they've ever desired, if they're willing to put in the action and the work and use their resources and connections and make it happen. Right? You have to be willing to make it happen. And just sitting around wondering what your why is or why your why is not working is just not going to get it done. So go through that process I kind of just gave you about setting standards, and think about something. Think about the one thing that you have the highest level of standard for. Maybe it's how another person treats you. And when that person doesn't treat you with that high level of standard, you get upset. It's very hard for you. And then flip the script, reverse it and say, gosh, what if I treated myself with that same level of excellence? What if I treated myself with that same level of 5-star excellence that I demand from that favorite restaurant that I go to? What if everything I did was 5-star, like I expect them to be? Because the payment that you get paid for doing that is exponentially greater than the check that you have to pay for at the end of that night. Way more valuable, way more important. So if you started acting like you were that 5-star and everything you did was in alignment with that, who gives a shit what your why is? Irrelevant. Because you've got a set of standards that are going to push you through any obstacle, any adversity, any challenge, anything that life presents to you. And that's just the truth. So set yourself some standards. Go get them. I believe in you. I promise you're capable. If you need some help, let me know. We've got unbelievable resources. Hopefully you've read The Overweight Mind. Hopefully you've listened to The Overweight Mind. Hopefully you're listening to this podcast every single week. If you're part of my program, the ThriveForeverFit Overweight Mind program, you know that you've got the resources that you need to do the things that you need to do. Make sure you're utilizing those resources. All right. Have an amazing week. Love you. See you soon. Bye. I hope you guys enjoyed that show as much as I did. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I am so thankful and so grateful that you take the time to listen to the show every week. And it means the absolute world to me. If you've got a little bit of time, it would mean everything if you would go and give the show a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on, as well as share it with a friend or family member that you think might find value in the show. And again, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being an awesome human and listening to the Overweight Mind podcast. Thanks, and we'll see you again next week. All right, bye.